Randy, what's the meaning of the stuff behind you there?
Sorry.
Lantern.
Oh, 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 with Neil Armstrong.
Okay.
There you go.
It will be on tomorrow's Ankins Daily Moon.
Then the hot side.
He's not gathering murder hornets.
No.
You're right about that.
You see those outfits that they wore in order to gather those murder hornets?
No, what would you like?
They're pretty impressive.
Oh yeah, vacuumed them out of the tree with this, and they were just covered completely in protective, very, very thick protective gear.
I hope they got danger pay for it, like holy smokes.
I hope so too.
How many did they catch? Do you remember?
They didn't say. They got two queens.
They got two queens.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, they got two queens? The first time they said they didn't have any, but.
No, they caught the queens later.
Oh, later, okay.
Individually, I guess. Don't know.
Where is this?
Yeah, Washington State.
Yeah. Oh. Just south of the Canadian border, apparently.
Yep.
You want to say hi? Say hi. You can say hi.
Hey, puppy.
Hi, puppy.
There you go. Now you can go away.
We have a 6-month-old puppy, Mike, and that's very interesting at our age. It's like having another baby in the house.
Yeah, nothing like a 4 a.m. I need to go potty break with a puppy who then wants to play.
Yeah.
And I say, whose idea was this anyhow?
It was probably your idea because the hard cases tend to pay more attention to the cutest dogs.
Yeah.
Oh, Reg.
Hello, everyone.
But you look like you were at sea there. You were kind of.
I've been scrambling around. Somebody just phoned me on the phone. I can't find my phone. I had to reboot my computer, and I had a whole pile of stuff loaded up. So I might just disappear here on you guys. So I'm going to say have a good night, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, speaking of raising puppies, we got 2 Jack Russell puppies at the same time.
Good.
Oh,
People thought we were crazy, and at times we agreed with them.
Jack Russells. Ooh.
The Jack Russell puppies are very active. How did they deal with your car? Or how did you deal with them in your car?
They love the car. It's nice and quiet.
Okay, good.
Yeah, they're not. One brother is not as happy in the car as the other, but they're fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
They haven't figured out yet that's how they get to the vet.
You probably won't believe this, but they love the vet. They can't wait to get in the door.
Joe, how old are they now?
They're 9.
Oh,
mature dog.
Yeah, so they're seniors.
Yeah, you must have got them over the same time we got ours.
Could be, yeah. Is that the same? Yeah.
2012 in the summer.
Ah, pretty close.
Yeah.
Gary, what type is your puppy?
We got an Australian Shepherd.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're very, very cute. And what I rediscovered is that puppies are clueless when it comes to social interaction with other dogs.
Oh,
And they are. And the only way they actually learn is by having older, mature dogs nip at them and say, no, that's inappropriate. So we're right in the middle of that right now.
Yep.
Of course, I can't nip at the dog. So when she's inappropriate by biting me around the ankles, what do I do? You know, like kicking doesn't work. I wouldn't do that anyhow, but kicking doesn't work because that turns into a game. Kick me if you can, these sort of thing.
Yeah.
So we're going to see a pet psychologist on Wednesday.
oh my.
911 Cedar.
You do realize that's to train you.
Yes, I know, exactly. It's exactly, I get it. We've had dogs all of our lives, and we have to relearn all this stuff, you know?
Sounds like post-election stuff to me.
That's more like Jen.
Yeah.
Notice we've had it's just after the half hour and a few people are just showing up, so we'll just give another moment or two.
So Michelle, how is it going way back there, and what's new with your telescope?
You have to speak French.
Yeah, sure. Nothing really happened really with my telescope over here right now, because I came a bit too late. So it took a bit too much time to find somebody to basically to do the basement, you know, it's like the concrete just to build the, so everything is postponed until next summer. Just to let you know, it's already white outside. So we have right now probably about an inch of snow. So yeah, it's kind of too late. So I'm gonna have to wait now, probably in May to start.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
Oh, Joe, I was going to say, I saw your video of your little helicopter doing the pan of the city, looking. I think it was west. It was quite something.
Yeah, yeah. I can have a lot of fun with that thing. I've posted quite a few videos of using the drone for last few years. It's nice to be able to get above the trees, because then you can get a much better photograph of things, or video.
Okay, it's about 25:02 according to my clock, and so welcome everyone to the first Astro Cafe of November and first Astro Cafe of back on standard time. And it seems so dark this evening, I must say. Hope everybody is keeping well and survived Halloween, and and nobody is unwell, I hope. I have a few things on the agenda of people wanting to talk already, so perhaps I'll start off with that, and then if there's other announcements, I'll be able to do that afterwards. The first thing is the Centre calendar order arrived, and we have, I think Reg has got one, they're actually at Reg's house at the moment. What we're going to do this year is I will have some, and hopefully Lori is still interested in having some calendars. Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah. So you could contact either Lori or me once we have that worked out, and we'll send that information out. We have 50 of them, so it will be first come, first served, and we're just going to sell them. So basically, they'll be $15 each. So if exact change or a check is appreciated, but we'll try and make sure we have some change, hopefully. And basically, I work in the morning, so I could be available, for example, in the afternoon, depending where you are and where I can be. And so that was what I was thinking of, just do it by kind of informal meetups. at a safe distance. So if you want one, email, and we'll basically they'll do first come, first serve. First people with cash get them. So we'll see how that goes this year and trying something new. So we'll send that out once we're ready to start that, and it'll probably be in the next week.
Yeah, and anybody that's on the peninsula or kind of above, like Royal Oak or anything like that, like just email me and I'll do exactly the same as I can make myself available.
Yeah.
So just to be clear for people who don't know, Laurie lives in Brentwood Bay and Chris lives in Victoria City.
Yeah. Well, actually, the south end of Sandwich, but
sorry, south end of Sandwich.
But yes, yeah, just over the border. Yeah. So we'll send the information as to who to contact, and basically we'll see how it goes this year. Just a reminder that we're getting closer to having our annual general meeting. That takes place in February now, and we'll be looking for a new council election at that time. So we will be reaching out to people because we have some vacant positions, as I think everybody's aware. And it's, of course, the end of Reg's term as president. So we do need somebody to step up to be president, and we need somebody to be vice president. And then we'll be reaching out to the people who are currently in other council positions to see if they are prepared to stay on in doing what they're doing. So just a heads up that that's coming up. It's still, it's about 3 months away, but because we have this, what looks like a leadership vacuum at the moment with no heir apparent, typically the vice president would take over. We don't have one of those, so we really desperately need somebody to step up and get ready to that, get onto that. The other thing I just wanted to mention too at the end is if some people were looking for something to do, the national office was running the Explore the Universe program, and I just wanted to mention that those formal presentations have come to an end, but I'm just sharing my screen. Hopefully everybody can see it. This is RASC.ca ETU online. So Explore the Universe online, so ETU and the online bit. They have all the information here, including almost all of the presentations they gave. These are available on YouTube. They were Zoom presentations at the time, given by Jenna Hines of the National Office and a fellow named John Reed from who lives in Halifax, and he's written some guidebooks as well. So he talks a bit about that. Anyways, there are all of those available. There are targets with each set. Some of those will not work at the moment because, of course, some of these were spring targets, and then there were summer targets, or I guess they were all summer targets. And then they got into the fall targets, and finishing up with what you might see over the winter. But all the other information about the Explore the Universe program is here as well. So I just wanted to remind people that's available. Looking at the statistics, we haven't got very many center members with that certificate. So I'm hoping to do it. And I think Diane has been attending those. And I believe Janine in Nanaimo has been attending them. I've seen her name. And so I think Bill Weir was there some of the time. So maybe we can get some more certificates for the center out of that. And they're planning to do the Explore the Moon program that Randy did, probably starting in March. They're going to wait till then because a lot of people, of course, are like Michelle in the colder part of the country, so they don't necessarily want to go out and start doing this in the winter. So I just thought I'd mention that. And I realized I kind of bypassed you, Reg. Do you have a calendar there? And I think you're muted at the moment. So there is this year's calendar. And guess what's on the cover? So again, if you want one, yeah, we'll send out the instructions on how to get them, and we'll do that as soon as possible once we're doing that. Oh, that's a nice one. Yeah. So, anyways, hopefully people will be interested in getting those. So some of you who are on the active observers list will see that there's been work going on at the VCO, and I believe John is going to tell us about what's happened so far in the last couple of weeks, culminating with some more work this weekend. So John, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. I'll just share the screen. Okay, let me just start this slideshow. You should be able to see it now, I think. Everybody see something called Plan B with a star in the middle?
Yep.
Okay, so as most of you probably know, the TPO 16-inch scope that we've been having trouble with for quite a long time is now gone. Matt, Dan, and others spent a lot of time trying to get that scope to collimate without success. And when we sent it back to the company to get it fixed, they couldn't fix it. And they were a bit surprised to learn that, thanks to Matt Watson's good judgment, we had a lifetime warranty on the thing, something that isn't available anymore. So they agreed to provide a gift card of $5,596 US, which I think Reg is now in possession of. And that's very fortunate for us. In the meantime, we need a telescope for the VCO. And the Plan B telescope is one from Arizona. It's a used optical guidance system telescope. And thanks to Gary Sedun, who spotted that scope, it was being sold in Arizona, and Reg and I have purchased it. It's a 12.5-inch scope, and it may fill the needs for the VCO. We've done some initial testing that involved Reg, myself, Gary Sedun, Dan Posey, and Joe Carr. And I'm going to show you some of that data. And Dan also located the wide field T-ring that helps if you're using a full frame camera, and also a flattener lens to put in, and the spacers we needed. So we're all set up to test it as of last Friday. We did some tests before that, but last Friday is when we sort of did the more definitive ones. Now, just to remind you, I think Reg has shown this before, but the specifications of this scope is that it's shown here. It's a 12.5-inch aperture scope. It's an f/8.6, and that makes its focal length 2730.5 millimeters. The primary lens test gave an RMS wavefront error of an amazing 1 divided by 31 of an arc second, or sorry, of a wavelength at 6,200 angstroms. And it's really quite an interesting scope. I'll say a bit more about it later, but first I'm going to just go through and show you some of the things we did. First of all, we were able to get from Bruno Quenneville a focuser that actually fits right on it. It's a helical focuser, a very solid thing, and it works really quite well. And in the pictures here, you can see the camera set up with, you won't be able to see what's inside it, but that black tube in it contains the lens for flattening and also some spacers. And then on the right, you can see the camera attached to that focuser on the back of the scope. Here's another picture showing the camera attached. And on the right, you see what it looks like when we put a small video camera on it to do a test of looking at Mars and Saturn. And here is the first test image. This is the Deneb region as shot. We were quite pleased to see that with the field corrector, we were able to see stuff quite sharp right out to the edges. There is a bit of vignetting, as you can probably see. That shows up better when we stretch the image. You can see the vignetting in this, but it's very correctable vignetting. And this next picture shows with the vignetting corrected and a little bit of noise correction as well. There was no attempt to do any serious processing on this. It's just a single frame, full frame from a full frame camera. And this is a picture of M15, again with the full frame camera taken with that scope. And here's a cropped version so you can see the cluster a little bit better. All of these pictures are really quite nice pictures. When you blow them up and look at them, the stars are quite round, quite beautiful. Seems to be working rather nicely. Here's a couple of 3 pictures, I guess, of what we got with planets. Unfortunately, when we were doing the planets, the the seeing was not the greatest, but we were still able to get some pictures. The one on the left is 4 different filters, red, green, blue, and infrared on Mars. And then the next one over is the color image of Mars that comes out. It's not a wonderful picture because of the seeing, but at least it demonstrated to us that everything fits. We can achieve focus as needed, and it works. And by the way, we can achieve focus with all of the eyepieces we tested as well. But I think if you want to do visual work, you'd be much better off to use the big daub outside than a 12.5-inch scope inside. And this is just I'll show you a few pictures just to tell you a little bit about what this OGS company does. This shows 2 pictures. One is a telescope that they've provided to an observatory, a professional observatory. They make telescopes up to quite large sizes, but the telescopes of the size that we have are often used for tracking. And on the right, you will see an array. 2 of the scopes there are OGS scopes, and that's a setup used for tracking rocket launches. And here's a picture of the Pelican Nebula taken with the same size scope that we have. So they're quite capable instruments, there's no doubt about that. The one that we have, if you look closely at the images I showed, it's hard to do it on the screen now, but if you blow them up, you can find some minor flaws. It's pretty clear that the telescope is not precisely collimated, but it's close enough that it's usable just the way it is. And we're going to do some thinking about what we do going forward. But I think we have a scope that once we put the guide scope on it, it'll be ready for prime time for anybody that wants to put their camera on and have a go. So that's basically what I wanted to show you. Thanks very much. And I'll just undo the share here.
Great. Any questions for John, or do any other members of the team like to contribute some?
Yeah, Joe is here, Gary's here, Reg is here. I don't know if Dan's here or not.
I don't have anything to add, but I did go up a week ago Thursday when no one else wanted to go up and take pictures using the prior jury rig setup. And I can tell you by looking at John's pictures that the improvement has been 100-fold in about 10 days.
Mhm. Thanks, Michael. We're pretty pleased with the results.
Yeah, it's looking very good. Okay, I guess that was the only presentation I was told about. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to say? Reg, do you want to mention our other meeting this week?
Oh, thank you, Chris. There's a council meeting on Wednesday, Zoom meeting. It starts at 7:30, and I've sent out a message to the council members. So I think it'll be an interesting evening. We'll be discussing a little bit more about the fate of the VCO, and we've had pretty successful movement since the last council meeting, because at that time we still did not have permission to go up on the hill. So we're quite excited about what the potential is for the winter as we go along. The other items that we'll be talking about at the council meeting is the preparations for the annual general meeting. And then also we'll be exploring a little bit more about an announcement that Chris Gaynor made last week regarding the Maritime Museum proposed Maritime Museum in Langford might have a potential for a planetarium at it, and it might be an opportunity for RASC to get involved, but we'll probably explore that a little bit more. I would like to say that next week we're going to have our monthly meeting next week, and the speaker for that is Jay Anderson from Winnipeg. We'll be doing a Zoom presentation on eclipses. Some of you might know Jay's work. He's done an awful lot of eclipse meteorology and traveled all over. He gave this presentation to Janine up in the Nanaimo Astronomy Society recently, and it's really quite a bit of a travelogue as well, because he's traveled widely over the world taking these images. So that might be quite an exciting presentation for you to see. Other than that, I do have a few little things to share on the screen if you want me to do so, Chris.
Sure, you could go ahead with that. That'd be great.
Okay, we did not get any contributions from Edmonton. I think this is probably the first time that's happened. So
no, I have two things to show you, Rich.
Oh, you do? Okay, excellent. I'm really glad and relieved that they're still doing well. But I did get a message from Karoon at UVic, and their UVic Observatory Open House is a Zoom session, and the topic is messy stellar siblings. But it's really a talk by Dr. Melissa Graham, and she's associated with the Vera Rubin Observatory, and she studies supernova, and she'll be discussing how an update on this new telescope down in Chile, just down the street from the Gemini South telescope, and she'll be showing developments with the status of that observatory.
Uh-oh, I think we lost Reg. He's been having some computer issues, so I think we'll just stand by and see if he can reconnect.
Chris, do you know if that talk on Wednesday is the same time as our meeting?
I guess it will be, yeah. I think it, do they start at 7 maybe? I don't know. See if I can find it on their on the
We
website there.
should maybe try to do something so we're not, we're not meeting at exactly the same time.
Time on that, yeah.
Yeah.
Is our monthly meeting this week or the following week?
It's this week, yeah, on the 4th.
Okay, that's.
Or sorry, the council meeting is on the 4th. The monthly meeting will be in this time slot next week.
Right, okay.
Actually, the UVic Open House and our monthly meeting was coincident when we had them holding them actually in person. It worked out really well because you could attend both. They're both in the same building.
Yeah, what time are they starting their presentations? Looks like 7:30. Yeah.
Yeah.
So exactly on top there. Reg, are you back yet? No, there he is. Hello, Reg, you're back.
I'm sorry for that sudden disappearance. I won't talk anymore, but I just say that my computer was hacked, and I have to reboot my computer to send any email now, so it's kind of awkward. So.
Yeah. So you were saying about the open house, and Lori had an interesting question. I don't know if you want to ask it again, Lori, or comment.
It's just that our meeting, our council meeting, and the open house is at exactly the same time. So and it's basically an hour, an hour and a half or so for both of them. And so if you go to one, you can't really go to the other one. So just sometimes there's been some good speakers, and as you say, Vera Rubin, from somebody from the Vera Rubin Observatory will be there, but and they don't, as far as I know, they don't record their meetings because of UVic, things from UVic about recording. So I'm just wondering if there's any way that we can start earlier or start later or something, so we can be part of it.
Well, we've already set up our meeting time for 7:30, so I think we're going to stick with that for now. It is a bit unfortunate. It's sort of like a total eclipse once every 4 weeks that are the two events line up together, or every 8 weeks, I guess. So.
Was there anything else on the website you want to mention, maybe without sharing?
Yeah, well, if you go to the weekly summary from RASC, the one thing that interested me is that there's a presentation, I think it's from the University of Toronto, and there's one of the speakers is going to be talking about the CHIME, the radio telescope in Penticton area, that might be of interest to people in our area because it's in our own backyard, and it's doing major work with fast radio bursts. So that is one thing. Chris Peirce also sent me an interesting newsletter from the University or from Arizona. I'm not sure if it was from an observatory there, but at any rate, I'll put that link on the web page so people can check into there. There's some interesting stuff there.
Yeah, that's from the University of Arizona. They do run a fairly major observatory in Arizona. Plus, they also have that mirror lab. That's how I got on their mailing list. I went to see them building these huge mirrors, which I believe David Lee had done, and he was the one who told me about it. And so when I was down in that area there in Tucson, so we went to see that. And yeah, they send out an email on the first of every month with the things that are going on there, and some interesting things happening. So I'll try and remember to pass that on so we can put that content on our site, because they ask people to share it. So yeah. Anything else, Reg? For this evening?
Nothing comes to mind right now, Chris.
We just need to get Reg a new computer, I guess.
Well, I had a backup one, but it wouldn't load Zoom on it tonight, so I had to scramble over to this one. So.
Yeah, you said it was your old one. Your old one is an old one.
Well, it's the one that I spilled water on and shorted it out. So I'm a dead man walking here right now.
Yeah. Yeah, Reg is a bit on the edge computer-wise. Okay, great. Okay, so Dave, you said you had a couple of photographs or some content
Yes.
from Edmonton.
Yes, I do. Let me just share the desktop here. I was one busy doggy today. I didn't get a chance to send anything to Reg. Busy raking leaves and so on. Let's see if I can get this to come up the way I want. Let's see what happened here. I gotta find the right. All right, guess what? Over here. There we are. Oh, okay. All right, so there are two images basically. The first one is Arnold Rivera, and he took this with his usual amazing Schmidt camera thing. So this is in Monoceros. So this is a wide field image. The Cone Nebula, if you can see right smack in the middle here, and the Christmas tree cluster, and some surrounding other sites that he thought was quite interesting. So that's not a very frequently photographed area of the sky, so I thought that was kind of interesting. The second one was by Abdur, and this is a photograph of the crab. He took it Saturday and Sunday night, and it's again another one of the wide field targets he wanted to capture. So that would be it. Very nice image of the crab. I heard people talking about the other day is on the website in Edmonton. One guy was quite confused about how it could have exploded in 1074 or whatever it was, and it's 6,000 years away, and we're seeing this. He didn't understand that we were seeing what happened 6,000 years ago in 1054. 1072 or whatever it was. So I remember seeing this when I first started observing back in the early 90s. And between then and now, it has significantly changed size and shape and brightness. And so it is at 6,000 light years, it's fairly close. So that as it expands, we are seeing, in sort of human life frame, we are seeing changes in this nebula. So it's obviously angular wise, it's expanding and it's also dimming a bit. So I thought that was kind of interesting as well. So
Dave?
Yeah.
You didn't mention, what was the temperature when Abdur took that photo?
It wouldn't have been that cold. They've had some cold weather, but it hasn't been terribly cold.
Well, he said in the fine print, he said it was set to drop down to -15 Celsius.
Yeah, that's not uncommon, late overnight. I mean, that was kind of always my cutoff point. I would not go out if it was -15 or below. I'd give up. I was always afraid that my Volkswagen van wouldn't start after I'd been out there for a couple of hours. and I'm not strong enough to push it so I could get it started by myself.
Park on a hill.
well, that's what I used to do at Cobau. The car starter on the car used to lock up every once in a while. So every year that I went to Cobau, I would park at the very top of the hill, just in case it needed a long run to get it going.
Get it going again. Very good. Yeah. Hey, great. Well, thank you so much. Those are, it turned out those are stunning images. Does anybody have anything else?
Yeah, Chris, I've just got an update on my little imaging scope.
Yeah, please.
Can bring that
Hurry
up.
up.
Let me just arrange this. So I think last time we talked, I hadn't really been able to overcome a few things. Last time I didn't have any calibration frames in first light, and I also didn't have my spacers correct. I found that out later. But this one I managed to, I woke up really early after Halloween, and I was out around 4:30 in the morning on Sunday morning, and I imaged the nebula again, the Orion Nebula. And I'm happy to report I have very round stars now. 5 millimeters, actually, that made the difference. It really weren't that bad, actually, but this is just so much better. And I don't know if you can notice this, but in my previous shot, there's this tiny little star beside, I think this is called Nair El Safe or something like that. But you couldn't make it out in the original shot I had, but you definitely can now. And I found that the blue halo around the stars were not as bad, actually. So now that everything is correctly in shape, it's doing well. It's doing well. So I really just have to add more data to this. You can see there's still a fair bit of noise in here. So this is only 25 minutes. So I'm hoping to add a whole bunch to this. But I'm very happy with such a small scope. And it's really quite a pleasure to just have it set up by the door and just drag it out and come back in very quickly afterwards. So
What kind of telescope is it?
it's a tiny little Borg scope. It's 55 millimeters. It's got a flattener on it, which makes it 200 millimeters. It's kind of like a high precision camera lens, actually. But
Very
it's made for astronomy. There's so many of these now. William Optics actually has one called the Red Cat and the Space Cat. It's sitting around 250 millimeters. They're very similar, but they're slower. They're, I think, 4.5 or something like that, slightly slower. But they're extremely popular now. I was kind of just browsing on the net today, and so many people with these tiny little rigs. I mean, they're using something like Star Adventurer. In my case, I'm using an Astro Track, but it's the same idea. So they're using a very small tracker mount and these lenses now. And we're teaming them up with the CMOS imagers. This is a ASI 183 MC. I went with a full color one because I wanted something quick. I didn't want anything with a heavy filter wheel on it. I do have a mono camera, which I'm going to start doing narrowband on, but I thought I'd just do this for my grab and go imaging, and it's working out well.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Looks good so far.
Yeah. So the other thing I wanted to mention, the other thing I've been doing with the scope is I've been doing a little bit of electronically assisted astronomy as well. So there's a whole suite that ASI has produced called ASI Studio. And one of them is their live module. So I was actually able to watch the Orion Nebula sort of build up on the fly. So I really enjoyed that as well. National actually is looking at sort of enabling electronically assisted astronomy within RASC. And I'm part of a group sort of initiating that now. But I thought what I would like to do is maybe if anybody's interested, start a special interest group within Victoria Centre. If you're interested in finding out how to do this or finding out how to observe. I think of it as being somewhere between visual and astrophotography. It's kind of a hybrid environment, and I really like it, actually. It's something that you can do in polluted environments, light polluted environments. And I'm not in that bad an area, like I'm out in Saanich, so I'm actually Bortle 5, I think. I think the city's a little bit worse. It might be like Bortle 7 or 8 or something like that. But people are actually using EAA in extremely polluted environments. New York City and thereabouts, I think is Bortle 9, almost like 8 or 9. So yeah, it's one way you can sort of see things, even if you're in polluted skies. Anyways, that's all I've got. If anybody has any questions, or send me a note, you can. I'll probably provide my address or something like that if you're interested in kind of forming a SIG or something like that, and then we can probably meet periodically to see what's happening in EAA.
David, I just have a quick question.
Sure.
What's the ring around the star up in the right top right hand corner?
This one or?
Not that one. Keep going up.
Okay, I gotta move myself out of the way. This one
sorry.
here?
Yeah. What's that? What it looks like?
Those are two
looks like there's a ring around it.
There's two stars that are really close together. So what happens is when the thing gets overexposed, the diffraction rings kind of superimpose on top of each other. It's an artifact. Yeah.
Okay.
If you look it up on an atlas, you'll see that it's actually two stars. I don't know if they're related or not, but there's two stars close together, kind of like a double star. And I'm not sure if they're a real double star, but yeah, I wondered about that as well. In my first light image, it was quite distorted, but you can actually make it out here.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, the other thing that I've been amazed by with this electronically assisted astronomy is that I could see in real live sense all this structure out here while I was out with my scope. So it was really quite interesting to see it live. I mean, I could see it without having to go back, and there wasn't this. There's still a slight disconnect when you do astrophotography, when you're out, you know, under the sky, and you kind of take your images and you come back in the warm house, and then you kind of wait for, you know, like, you know, 10-15 minutes for it to turn away while it does some processing. But this is such a joy. It's kind of like Polaroid photography or instant photography or something like that. You know, it's you're out there and you can look at it, and then you wanted to, if you said, well, I wonder what's happening in this region slightly off, you could do it. You could just immediately do it. You just move your scope and then start building up another image somewhere else. So I really like that nature of it.
David, how long does it take to get to this state?
This would have taken, okay, there's a lot of this like processing here as well. But I wish I had captured the screen when I was doing EAA, because it's different. You definitely see the color. I mean, you see the hydrogen alpha region. I would say you would see out to maybe about here. You wouldn't see this fine structure out here. This is a consequence of a stack of 50 images, right? So when I'm stacking, I mean, I was just doing like 10-second, 30-second exposure. So you could sit for a few minutes and, you know, get, you know, a few minutes worth of exposure, right? So yeah, you can get a fair bit. Mind you, this is a very bright object as well. The Orion Nebula is a very bright object.
I think this is fabulous, because what happens to most people when they look through a scope is they go, "Oh, is that all?"
Exactly.
They're expecting to see something from the Hubble telescope.
Yeah, in fact, this was meant to be my response to visitors coming up to the center during the summer, because often you have to explain to them, well, you're not going to see the coffee book image, and you describe these things to them, and they're just disappointed, right? Yeah, and often our skies are not dark enough yet, you know, by the time they arrive, and there's all sorts of things that are problematic. But this kind of changes the picture a fair bit.
So you could do this with any scope, couldn't you?
Pretty well. I'm doing it with a tiny little scope. I'm using a finder scope, basically. This is the size of a finder scope.
Yeah, I think Jim Hesser would have something to say about this. He wasn't too happy about us always emphasizing Hubble images.
I could see this being, I could see this being quite useful for public outreach when you have someone who is disabled and can't get their eye to an eyepiece.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, even during COVID, you know, I was thinking, you know, like I have a portable panel that actually I use. It could be attached to the laptop, and then I wouldn't be near the person who's viewing. I could operate it, and I could even operate it behind plexiglass, I guess. But you know, you could have a situation where you have a monitor rigged up, maybe even several monitors rigged up, so that people can see what you're doing.
So you need a one-shot color camera, right?
Some people are doing it with monos, but yeah, that's the preference. That's the idea. Yeah, you don't want to be assembling imagery, right? You want a one-shot kind of camera. There's plenty out there.
You could use one-shot color. I mean, there's no reason why not, and that would actually simulate what you would see in the eyepiece.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Can you use a DSLR?
I suppose you could. I don't see why you couldn't. There's lots of options. I mean, this is kind of nice because there's software that's built for this kind of stuff. Like there's SharpCap, there's the new ASI Studio, which is designed for live stacking. There's lots of things, but I've heard of people using SLRs too. It's whatever you want to use. It's just that these are purpose built because with ASI Studio, you basically connect your camera, like your CMOS camera, and you just say, start stacking, and that's what it does. And like I said, it's pretty amazing. It actually has the same facility, like polar alignment. You don't even have to worry about, like SharpCap has built-in polar alignment. You know, Dave, you remember how when I bought the Pole Master, I thought that was the best thing since sliced bread? Well, you don't even need that anymore, really. I mean, you could use SharpCap in your camera, or you could use the ASI products and do the same thing. They all have plate solving in them now.
David, I was wondering about if that group you are involved with, if anybody's ever mentioned possibly just putting an iPhone up against the camera with a steady brace and let it take images, and have the computers on those iPhones are strong enough that they could do the real-time processing on the system and just have it.
I suppose they could. I actually haven't seen any things for phones yet, but I'm sure that's coming. I don't see why you couldn't do that. The other thing that I've been experimenting with, and I haven't really got it off the ground yet, but I bought an ASI Air Pro. It's one of the newer versions of what came out a couple of years ago. I don't know, for those of you who don't know what that is, it's a Raspberry Pi computer, which is a tiny little computer. They're really cheap. They're like, I don't know, like $80 for the board. There's ways of kind of rolling your own software to do what this thing does, but you can buy a commercial product for about $400. It's basically the computer, but it's got custom software that ASI wrote. So basically, you just boot the computer up and you've got polar alignment, you've got plate solving, you've got guiding. The new one even has 12-volt output, so it becomes your 12-volt distribution box as well. You don't need a laptop. Basically, you walk out with your phone or with your iPad. With the ASI Pro, it's about the size of a deck of cards, and away you go. That's the next step to the imaging rig. So everything's miniaturizing.
David, Raspberry Pi, I think just recently announced a 400, which has a keypad, and the computer's built right into the keypad. It might.
You could always have a keypad. I mean, all you need is like a wireless keyboard. You just plug it into the USB port, and you've got keys. I mean, I've had that for a long time, even with the early Pis. In fact, that's how I coded most of the early Pis, is just using an external wireless keyboard. And I have a tiny little display that goes with them as well. So you can hack them. I mean, they're very easy that way. But yeah. So I don't know. I don't know. It's not for everybody, I suppose. If you want to use a non-commercial product, you can buy Stellar Mate, which is kind of a suite of software very similar to this ASI suite. And you just buy a raw Raspberry Pi and just build it yourself. Probably not quite as easy. It doesn't have the distribution voltage part to the Pro, but there's no reason why you couldn't roll your own. You could build one. I was just lazy. I mean, I could have built one myself. So yeah, just let me know if you're interested in maybe joining a special interest group. I'm just hoping to maybe build some interest here inside of the center, and then away we go. We'll just see what we can do with these tiny little rigs. And oh yeah, you're right. You don't need a tiny little rig. I do that because I'm looking for something small. But lots of people are doing AAA with more sensitive imagers and larger rigs, like a, maybe like a 9.25 or an 11-inch Schmidt Cassegrain. any other questions? If not,
Thank you.
I guess I need to unmute. Thanks, David. That was a great update, and good to see the progress with that. And with the spacing there, it looks like it's just about perfect. So very good. Jim, did you want to mention your post in the chat, or?
Well, I could. I just put a link to the physics colloquium Wednesday afternoon, which will be by Vicki Caspi from McGill University. She gave a talk on the same theme last week as a public lecture in Halifax, and she got a half an hour of questions afterwards. It was a really superb talk. They did record it, but they needed to edit the recording in some way, and to my knowledge, it hasn't yet appeared. I don't know if the UVic one will be aimed at a somewhat higher level since it is a physics colloquium, but she is an outstanding speaker, and she did mention last week that they had new results which were embargoed, but there might be a press release on Wednesday, so I would imagine she'll mention whatever the new results are in her UVic talk.
Very good. Well, thank you for sharing that. So the link is there if you need to copy it out of the chat. And Reg will try and get that onto the website if his technology permits. Does anybody else have anything for this evening? It's quite a few interesting things. Okay, well, if that's, we'll call, so last call. Anybody have anything to say? Otherwise, I guess we'll call it an evening.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
Thank
you, everyone.
Okay. Thanks very much for attending, and we'll talk to you again.
Thanks for hosting, Chris.